Spring had come and passed quickly on the Refuge and Chiltern Hills, with summer right around the corner. The engines had been very busy over the past few months, working day and night to ensure the railway ran like clockwork. Well, most of the time. Though they were managing the increasing workload, the engines felt hard-pressed to keep up with their very tight timetable. Things were getting almost as bad as when Mr. Johnson had been in charge, only now, all engines were feeling it. They knew they'd have to talk to Mr. Start about it, but with how hard they were working, it was hard to find the time. One morning, Buck, Seb, and Clark were sat in the sheds at Manifel, bunking off work. While the trio rarely put in half the effort as the others had, they still felt they had earned this unfair rest. Soon, however, Mr. Start caught wind of their bullshit, and decided to give them a right bollocking. Ahem! Care to explain why you three are slagging off work?
But we aren't, though.
Seb, you literally had a local 15 minutes ago that Hart had to take. Haha, sucks to suck. And Buck, you had a goods train from the mainland 30 minutes ago that you, Clark, haven't even shunted yet.
I don't know what you're talking about, sir.
What? Yeah, sir. We're not even here. This is a drug-laced hallucination brought on by the coke you snorted off the ass of that hooker you had in your office yesterday. What the fuck are you on about? I can literally see you. And that was last week. That never happened.
Fuck! He's smarter than we thought. Quick, Buck! Jam the turntable!
Fuck it! Kamikaze! No, we're not doing that. I just wanted to know why you haven't begun your work today. Like, if there's a serious reason, or if you're just being lazy cunts.
Definitely lazy cunts.
Fuck's sake. I have a railway to run here, not a retirement home for old kettles and an oversized radiator.
Watch it!
Like, seriously guys, the other engines are out there busting their pistons just to keep us running. How's it fair that you guys are sat here doing sweet FA?
Simply, sir, it isn't. And simply, sir, we don't care.
Yeah, man. Why bother with work when we can sit here getting pissed and yet abuse at the others?
Because you care about the survival of the line? Oh, that's a good one, sir. Get me the guy who writes your material. He deserves a job. Fuck you, Buck. I swear, this shit was easier when I had more competent engines working for me. Ever since we had the roster change, shit has just been getting tougher and tougher. I got Seb back, but Levi is really what I need right now. Leviathan, where are you now?
I'm right here, sir.
Now, what the fuck? Levi? Where'd you come from?
Got bored at Banbury and wanted a change of pace, so I got my crew to bribe the shed master and relocate us here. We barely got used anyways.
And I'm here too, sir.
Hey, Axel.
Fuck me, I haven't seen you two in a while. Glad to have you back.
Seb! So this is where you ended up, you sadistic fuck.
When we got back to the sheds, you weren't there, so we thought you'd been yeeted to the scrap heap or something.
No. Mr. Start kidnapped me from the sheds and brought me on some crazy trip to Scotland. Before bringing me back here to help on the Eastwood branch. At least here I have a job every day.
Yeah, we've been used less and less since you left, due to the new BR designs. Hence why we went here.
I hope it's not a bother, sir, but we really didn't have anywhere else to go.
No, of course not. You're the missing piece of the puzzle. With Anthony Manor and King Richard being put on the Redwick Flyer every day, we've been struggling to get by with what we have, especially now that Endon Industrial is booming more than ever.
Oh, brilliant. Work is exactly what we need.
So then, sir, what do you need us to do first?
Well, if Clark here can get a move on, there will be a goods train ready for you two to double head up to Redwick that Buck here was supposed to take. Buck remained unusually quiet, trying to avoid eye contact. Okay. Well, after that, you, Levi, can go to the estate and take a large coal shipment that needs to go to Hinksey Yard. And you, Axel, can take the next local so Darius, our mogul, can have a rest. He's earned one after the work he's been putting in lately. Unlike these three. Mr. Starr glanced back to see Seb and Clark roll their eyes, but once again, Buck remained uncharacteristically quiet.
Sounds good to me, sir, and don't worry about the shunter. We'll sort the train in no time.
Indeed. Well, I guess we should go refuel and get ready then. Nice to see you again, Seb. And nice to meet you two, Clark and Buck, was it?
Buck seemed a little tense, but didn't speak up.
Quiet type, eh? That's alright. I'm sure you'll warm up to us soon enough. Come on, Axel. Let's go and get this train sorted.
The two engines set off towards the sidings. 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 The two engines set off towards the Once they were out of earshot, Mr. Stard turned to Buck. "What's up, Buck? It's not like you to be this quiet, and kind of rude of you to at least not greet them." "Sorry, sir, but I'd rather not talk about it." "Come on now, Buck. You know keeping things bottled up is just gonna blow up later down the line." "Seriously, sir, leave it." "Oh, don't be so modest, Buck. We're all friends here. I'm sure—" "I said drop it, Bradford!" Before anyone could say anything, Buck steamed angrily up the line, leaving a bewildered Shed behind.
The hell is wrong with him?
I don't know. He was fine earlier.
Well, something's clearly bugging him. I don't know what it is, but it seems to be pretty severe. I'll have to keep an eye on him.
Any more than usual?
This is different, Clark. We'll have to just wait and see. Now you two get your tenders back to work. I have to go tend to business.
But sir, I don't have a...
You know what I meant, Clark! Mr. Stard walked off. Though he was worried about Buck's outburst, he figured the Grange would open up to him when he felt ready. He decided not to dwell on it any further as he walked towards his office. Soon enough, Axel and Levi were charging up the line with minimal effort. Though it was a bit overkill to have the two strongest 280s on the Great Western Railway double-heading a train meant for a 5MT, the two were just happy to be able to stretch their wheels again. They charged through Colford in preparation for the climb ahead, gliding up it effortlessly. And before long, the two engines arrived at the goods yard of Redwick. The two then went their separate ways, with Levi heading down to the industrial estate to pick up his coal wagons, while Axel went to the sheds to refuel and inform Darius about the roster change. The engines spent the rest of their day working hard. Levi had a long journey ahead of him, while Axel spent most of the day on local passenger and freight runs, even taking the night express from Manivelle to Redwick. It was nighttime before the two engines reunited, where the other engines in the sheds filled them in on all they had missed while they were gone.
So they really tried to pull the plug on the Eastward branch, and Virgil, huh?
Sure did. Thankfully Mr. Starr bought it before they could rip it up. I tell you, that line was in disrepair. BR didn't look after it at all.
Yes, that seems to be their MO at the moment. I see he finally went through with the plan for the Redwick Flyer, but two engines on that service seems a bit... much.
That's for sure. It was supposed to only be Ramsey, but due to some unforeseen complications, he was unjustly taken off the service.
I see. Well, other than that, and the tension that's constantly hanging around, not much has changed then.
What's up with that anyways? You can literally cut the air with a knife and serve it on a plate when some of you are together.
Oh, yeah, about that. You see, there was an incident a while back where...
But Riley was interrupted by the sound of a deep, unfamiliar whistle. Looking ahead, the engine saw the shape of a small 060 tank engine reversing into the sheds, with red and white lining covering its tanks and cab, with the logo of the long-disbanded Caledonian Railway perfectly fitted in the center of his tanks. The engine came to a stop in one of the shed roads, and looked at all the staring faces.
The hell are you looking at? Is this what counts as a hello these days?
Oh, no, sorry. Hello. I'm Darius. And what might your name be?
My name's Rab. Don't forget it. I won't be telling you again, funny boys.
Okay, well, welcome to Redwick, Rab. What brings you to these parts?
Your wee fun of a manager bought me to take on shunting duties here, as well as helping with the construction of a line at the end of a triangle.
Wait, he's actually going through with the dock branch?
That's madness. BR themselves shut the project down before we left. And besides, he's not made of money. How could he afford something like that?
Apparently, they found investors on a trip to my old home turf. Something about over-the-top promises while drunk, if I recall correctly.
Figures.
Ah, Rab, there you are. Glad to see you made it in one piece.
Who the fuck are you?
That's Mr. Hoff. He's Mr. Stodd's right-hand man.
Oh right, another fud.
I saw you while you were being overhauled, though you were under when I was down there, so no wonder you don't remember me. Anyways, I'll be the one in charge of the construction of the dock line in place of Mr. Stoddard, as he's very busy these days. In between working with Riley here to get the hang of how this yard is operated, you and I will be working together on the construction process for the foreseeable future. Sound good?
What the fuck have I got myself into?
Axel and Levi exchanged a look. They both knew that something was going on, and while they didn't know what, it made them a little miffed. No one had taken the time to explain to them what was happening, something that made them feel like outsiders once again, just like when they had been at Banbury. It was a mutual feeling they had shared along with Seb while allocated there, making the departure of the Saint that much more impactful. Though they hadn't said a word to one another, they both knew they needed to inquire more information from them at a later time. As time went on, Mr. Hoff departed as more engines filled up the sheds to rest up after a long day of hard work. Many were happy to see the two returnees whom were old friends of many of the engines, while those unfamiliar with the Westerners were more than happy to get to know them. Rab, on the other hand, remained quiet, not very interested in making friends with the others. But before long, the engines started falling asleep, and soon enough, the sheds went silent for the evening, the engines getting a well-earned rest before the next day of work ahead of them. The next morning, Riley took Rab under his wing and showed him the ropes of the yard. The engines worked as a single unit in the morning. From taking the Redwick Flyer to the platform, to marshalling a train for local goods, the two worked together flawlessly. Soon enough, Riley sent Rab on a run with some empties to the industrial estate. Usually he would do this, but seeing as Rab wasn't perfectly familiar with the layout of the yard yet, he opted to let the Cali engine handle it. As he was preparing to marshal another train, something caught his eye in the distance.
Hey, what's this now?
And as the things got closer, Riley realized exactly what he was looking at.
Oh, fuck.
Mr. Stoddard walked out of his office at Redwick. He was heading towards the car park when someone called out from behind him.
Sir? If it's not too much of a bother, I could use your help.
I'm a little busy right now, Riley. What do you need? What the fuck? Mr. Stoddard turned around to see Riley trapped between two very strange locomotives. They were both a bluish-purple livery with yellow lettering on the side tags. Upon closer inspection, he was able to make out what the lettering said. Dexby and West Bexford Joint Railway. Oh, you've got to be shitting me. That means...
Hello, Bradford.
Hello, Henry. What's the meaning of this, then? Why are you keeping my engine hostage? Better yet, why have you invaded my line as if it's a dark railway?
It's quite simple, really. You have something on this line that belongs to me.
Look, if it's about the extra ballast truck I pinched, you could have just invoiced me.
No, you moron. I'm not talking about... Wait, you did what?
Look, it was one truck. No need to threaten Riley over this.
Yeah, seems like a little overkill.
Shut it, you. My ballast is the best in the country.
More like the most overpriced.
And yet you still buy it.
Touché.
Enough. That is not why I am here.
It's not?
No, though I will be invoicing you after I've increased security at my plant.
Shit. Well then, why are you here if not for your ballast?
You see, Bradford, long ago, back when my father ran the Dexby Railway, he was in need of a small shunter. Since this was during the time right before the Great Depression, money was hard to come by, so we couldn't just build a new one. He searched long and hard until one day...
Yeah. Father, depressed, need an engine. Look, Henry, I'm kind of pressed for time here. Can you speed this up a little?
Impatient git. Fine. My father brought an engine, said engine ran away, and dropped off the grid. I've tracked them down to this railway, and now I've come to get them back.
See? That wasn't so hard now, was it? A runaway engine, you say? Sounds familiar.
Sir, I think he means...
Shut up, Riley, I'm thinking.
If it helps your small brain, I have the deed here.
Let's see. We're here at the London Brighton, yada yada yada, using payment in cash. Jesus, lots a lot of money back then. Get scammed. Of 3 Stroudley coaches and a locomotive number 63, A1X, Preston. Oh my.
Well, ring any bells?
Unfortunately, the engine's name is Gladys now, by the way. She's been hiding on this line since 1925. She told my grandfather she ran away here after being withdrawn from service. She ran all the way from wherever it was to hide out here.
I see. So where is she then?
I'll tell you, but on one condition.
You are in no position to bargain, but I'll humor it.
Tell me what's gonna happen to her. Will she be scrapped?
Oh, good heavens, no. She'll be taken back to my railway, sent into the works for mending, and then used on jobs around the railway.
Oh, good then. I'll go get her later then. Now just let Riley get back to his work and we can...
Oh, no. He'll be staying with me until I have my engine in front of me. I have been tricked before, Bradford, and I do not intend for it to happen again.
I'm sorry, what?
Should you fail to deliver by the end of today, I'll have no choice but to take this pannier as compensation for my terrier. Are we clear?
Mr. Stodd, please don't let the weird purple-eyed sex offender take me.
Quiet, you. My eyes aren't weird.
Really? That's what you choose to defend? Bruh. This guy's nonce. Please, police, help.
Don't worry, Riley. I'll get Gladys after I've been to my Red Lobster dinner and had a wank. Or 2. We'll see.
Gross.
How about we meet at Eastwood Junction at 6 p.m.? I'll have Gladys and her crew meet you there.
Excellent. I look forward to seeing you then.
Wait. 8 hours? Sir, what about the yard?
Rab can handle it. He's seen the layout.
Are you sure, sir?
HIV positive. Now if you'll excuse me, I have dinner plans. And so, Mr. Stodd walked away towards his car. Mr. Dexby turned to Riley.
Not to worry. You and I will get along just fine.
While Lord Dexby was confronting Mr. Stodd, Axel and Levi had found a gap in their schedule to get some rest at Colford along with Darius and, to their surprise, Clint, who was waiting for a delayed shipment for the Eastwood branch. The engines were reminiscing about old times and sharing new stories from their latest adventures. And then, somehow, my parts appeared in a wagon Virgil found. I tell you, it was lucky they found those, or the reopening would have been a failure.
How so?
Well, Virgil's vacuum pump failed, so he couldn't keep the brakes off. The only way to get the brakes off was to bypass the pump, but that would have been a rough ride. But thanks to the workmen, I was put together just in time to essentially become the brakes of the train. I can still hear the crowd's cheers as I backed onto the train. I tell you, it's one of my prouder moments.
Wow, so you've had quite the adventure since we left then. I'm glad Mr. Stodd's father saved you from the torch. It'd be a waste of an experienced engine, I tell you.
Ah, shucks. You make this old engine's safety valves lift. No need for the flattery. The engines laughed for a bit before going quiet. Axel decided to take this moment to ask about the thing that had been bugging him and Levi.
So we've been meaning to ask you guys, what the hell is going on at this railway?
This made Darius and Clint perk up. What do you mean?
Well, when we arrived, things seemed mostly normal, except Grange acting a bit weird, though we put that down to him being shy. But after that, I just kinda seemed to feel more and more unfamiliar.
Like when I went to inform you about the roster change earlier, Darius. When I pulled into the sheds, it sounded like you and Hart were arguing. And you all seemed tense as hell when I pointed out the tension here.
Darius and Clint exchanged a look, and were about to reply, but it was Levi who spoke first.
Look, I get we haven't been here for a while, but this is our home too. We at least deserve to know what's going on, no?
Yeah, up at Banbury we were treated like outsiders most of the time, so we don't want that here. Please, guys.
Clint sighed, then looked to Darius. Well, we might as well. Clint, are you sure? What if... Look, Darius, half the railway's against us already. It's better to be honest and gain a friend, rather than ignore and lie and gain an enemy. Yeah, you've got a point. Go for it then. And so, Clint began to fill the two engines in on what had really been going on, with Darius filling in the parts Clint had missed out on. Everything from that first get-together in the sheds to when Buck gave chase after Hardall a few months ago. The two engines listened intently along the way, quite surprised on what they were hearing. By the time Clint finished telling the story, the two engines looked to be deep in thought. So, there you have it. That's what's been really going on while you were away.
I see.
Indeed, it seems that you have stirred quite the large hornet's nest.
That we have, Levi. So what now?
What do you mean?
I think what he's saying is, now that you know what's been going on, what will you do with the information?
I'm going to be honest with you, mate. Nothing.
I'm inclined to agree with Axel.
What do you mean?
Look, I think both me and Levi appreciate what you guys are trying to accomplish, but honestly, it's just not something we can take part in.
Both me and Axel have friends on both sides, if you will, and we don't want to lose those friendships. I won't tell any of the others what you've told us tonight, and I'm sure Axel won't either. But now that we know, please keep us clear of it, yeah? We came here because we wanted to work again.
Yeah, we're not quite wanting to wage a war. We're old enough as it is.
I understand. And I respect you for being honest with us about how you feel.
Oh, please! You two put your trust in our buffers, it's the least we can do. Now then, I have a coal shipment to take out to Acton Yard, and I believe you have a lot of work to do as well.
The engines murmured in agreement as they said their goodbyes and went their separate ways, Levi and Axel feeling more at rest about their place in the fleet. One engine that was not feeling at rest, however, was Rab. When he had gotten back and found no trace of Riley anywhere, he had inquired with the station master about where the pannier had gone. After some explaining, convincing, and a lot of swearing, Rab gave in and accepted his job as station pilot for the day. He bustled about the place like a hornet trying to ensure that all the trains ran on time. Due to his quick acceleration and versatility, most of the trains going out that day ran on time. Of course, there was a few delays here and there, but most of the other engines understood that it was not the newcomer's fault. While others, well...
Midlander, where are my coaches?
Are you talking to me, funny boys?
No, of course not. The other Midland shunter. Of course you! Where are my coaches?
They'll be on the platform after I've finished marshalling the freight train at least before you.
Not good enough. I am a premier locomotive. I should not have to wait in line after filth like that Grange over there.
Buck was about to retort, but Rab spoke first.
Now you listen here, you walloper. You'll shut up and wait your turn. I didn't care what's standing to hold yourself in. If you ever speak to me like that again, I'll fill your boiler with some men and turn you to a statue for the inside out. Now, if you're in that much of a hurry, you'll get your ass to the carriage sidings and get them yourself. Do I make myself clear?
Hart just stared at the little shunter with a shocked expression, before slowly moving back into the sheds. Safe to say, he wasn't going to speak like that to Rab ever again. Later that day, Mr. Starr had made his way up to the abandoned branch to speak to Gladys. Her crew had been informed about what had occurred to Redwick earlier that day, though he had told them not to tell Gladys or Jeremy about what had happened, so that he could inform them himself. When he arrived, Gladys was in full steam and outside next to where Jeremy was shedded. When he looked at Jeremy, it was clear that some progress had been made on his restoration. The few men that knew of him had been working on him and had cleaned his tender up and replaced his bad parts with new ones, but there was still plenty to do. He greeted them both with a warm smile as he stopped between the two. Hello, you two. How are you today?
Just fine now that you're here, young Bradford.
My sanity is slowly draining with every word she speaks. Other than that, I'm fine.
I don't blame you. I'm glad to see your restoration is coming along very nicely though, Jeremy. Feeling any better?
Each part replaced is a huge relief. I'm still not fully there with the whole trust thing. That will take time. But I appreciate what you're doing for me, Stard. Really.
I'm glad to hear it. And don't worry. Take all the time you need. But I'm going to have to cut this chat short as I'm a little pressed for time. Gladys, we need to head up to Eastwood.
Gladys looked surprised, actually snapping to reality for a moment.
But, Bradford, if we travel now, I'll be seen for sure.
I thought you said you were going to protect her. That's basically asking for her to be taken away.
Whoa, hold up. Let me explain.
This better be good.
Mr. Stard went on to explain everything that had happened that day. Riley's predicament, the deed, and most importantly, what had happened all those years ago. By the time he had finished, Gladys had a blank expression on her smokebox. So that's it, really. What I'm trying to say, Gladys, is you don't have to run and hide anymore. You're safe, and you're going to a good home. Gladys couldn't contain her emotions anymore, as tears began rolling down her smokebox. After 30 years of living on the run, she was finally free. No more running, no more hiding. She said no more, continuing to cry tears of joy.
But the look in her eyes told Mr. Stard everything he needed to know.
It's quite alright, old gal. Now come on, let's go get you to your new owner. He climbed into her cab and patted her cab side gently as they set off down the line. Jeremy looked on from his sheds. True enough, he had never trusted a manager in his life after all the abuse he had received. But maybe, just maybe, this one was different. At Colford, King Richard, Thor, and Axel were talking away when a plume of smoke caught Thor's attention. What's that over there?
That's a bush, Thor.
No, not that. The other thing. The signal? No, the smoke. Is that? Soon, the shape of a small black tank engine making its way down from the abandoned branch became apparent. It rolled slowly over the points leading up to it and came to a gentle standstill. The engines were shocked, especially Axel. That's a terrier! What on earth is a Southern design doing here? In Southern livery, nonetheless? And what's it doing up there? I know I nearly went up that line once, but I swear that place was abandoned. But Axel had a different reaction.
What the hell is he playing at?
Who? Axel, do you know this engine?
I do, but that's not who I'm on about.
Then what do you mean by... At that moment, someone climbed out of the engine's cab and walked over to the switch. The engines would have recognized his brown suit from anywhere. Is that... Mr. Stard? What on earth is he up to?
That's what I'm wondering. She's not supposed to be in such a public area. Has he gone mad?
Whoa, hold up. What are you talking about?
That right there is Gladys. She escaped here due to being withdrawn before I was even built. Mr. Stard's grandfather, his father, and himself have been keeping her hidden ever since. I've not seen her much, but I do know of her. But what's confusing me is why he's brought her out in broad daylight.
So you mean to tell me he and his family have basically kept a refugee hidden here all this time? Well, now I see that his soft side has passed down from his grandfather, at least.
What's that supposed to mean?
It means he had to get his soft spot for saving engines deemed useless from somewhere. Him and that pannier on the Eastwood branch. His father in the Aberdare, and now we come to find out his grandfather saved an oversized steam generator on wheels.
Oh, come on now, Richard. That's hardly fair. Those two engines on the Eastwood line have proven themselves worthy of being in service time and time again. I'm sure this terrier is the same.
At this point, Mr. Stard climbed back into Gladys's cab, and the little terrier barked its way up towards Eastwood Junction. King Richard stared after them. We shall see. I wonder what British Railways will say when they find out about this. A few minutes later, Gladys and Mr. Stard pulled into the branch platform at Eastwood, where an army of Dexby locomotives, Riley, and the man himself, Lord Dexby, stood waiting. Mr. Stard disembarked from the cab and walked up to Lord Dexby. Well, Henry, I kept up my part of the deal. Are you going to keep up yours? Mr. Dexby looked closely at the engine in front of him, before turning to one of his little shunting engines.
Very well. Hammond, release him. As you require, sir.
The engine pulled forward, clearing the point so Riley could get free. That's better. Now then, Riley, How are you? Wait, Riley? Where are you?
I'm not hanging about with this fucking lot around. Save yourselves.
Right. Well, anyways. Henry, this is Gladys, formerly Preston. Now, if you'd kindly get the fuck off my railway, that would be much appreciated.
No, I don't think I will. The ballast company won't run itself now, will it?
Damn and blast!
Now then, Gladys, was it? I think it's time to head back to your new home. Seeing as you're facing the right way, why don't you ride in front?
Gladys eyed the man up. A spark lit faintly in her eyes, one that Mr. Stard was all too familiar with.
Oh, young man, all this talk of riding makes me yacht you in my cab for a right old stoking right in the firebox. Oh, you look like just the type of strapping young man who can make my wheels wobble and make my lubricators empty.
You take this and keep her the fuck away from me.
And what if I refuse?
You'll have one Dexby favor if you let her in 100 meters of me again.
Deal! Lord Dexby ran over to his engines, who were all too eager to leave before Gladys set their eyes on them.
Dexby away!
Mr. Stard stared blankly as Dexby faded away, before turning his gaze back to Gladys, who was steaming innocently as ever. You did that on purpose, didn't you?
I have no idea what you're on about, young man.
Right. Well then, I guess I own you now.
Oh,
No! Not like that! Anyways, what I was going to say is that you're long overdue for a once-over. Stop it! So I'm sending you down to the works to be repaired and repainted, should you so desire. Why don't you go up to the quarry first and get your coaches from the shed, so that you can get those looked at as well. I have an idea.
oh, gladly, sir. I can't wait to have those strapping young men down at the works look me all over.
Some things never change, do they? Mr. Stard was true to his word, and Gladys arrived at the works and proceeded to scar the workers for life with her suspect comments. The men, who wanted her out of there as soon as possible, refurbished and repainted her in record time, because only a week later, Gladys emerged in a beautiful marsh umber and was sent straight to work on the Eastwood branch. Mostly helping out with the small freight runs to the junction, but she could also be seen working all over the line. She was a very skilled shunter, marshalling wagons and coaches timely and efficiently for the others to haul to their destination. At first, the other engines resented her due to her antics, but as time went on and as Gladys mellowed out, they grew to accept her as one of their own. All except the engines now firmly under the hold of British Railways. King Richard had gone straight to the man from British Railways to inform them of what he had seen when he first spotted Gladys. This news came as a shock to the man, now knowing Mr. Stard for sure knew about their construction site up at the abandoned line. He knew they would have to get rid of him soon, but the opportune moment had yet to present itself, and if it didn't show itself soon, they would have to take action.
Chris, I swear to God, if you forget another line, I will make sure you become one with the fucking Dexby ballast I will build your railway from. I will punt you to the sun and back.